In this unit of our InDesign CS6 course, we're going to start setting up tables that we can use for entering information into our student order form. We're going to begin by creating a brand new text frame. I'm going to go about halfway down the form along the right margin, hold the mouse button down and drag a text frame to the left margin, setting it just beneath that logo that we placed a little bit earlier in our student order form. You'll see my text cursor flashing there. Tables are text elements. No matter how sophisticated you make them, they're basically formatted as text information. So what I'm going to do in this case is with my flashing cursor right there is I'm going to go Table, Insert Table, and I'm going to live with the default settings we've got right here of 4 body rows and 4 columns with a single header row that's set over the top. When I say OK, that's exactly what it's going to place for that text. 4 evenly spaced columns and 5 evenly spaced rows. One of them's the header, 4 of them are body rows. I don't want to set that up exactly that way. I actually want to fine-tune this a little bit to be based on the information that I'm going to place inside of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some vertical ruler guides, place one of them at 1 inch. I'm going to place a second one at 6.5 inches. I know that because I can see the tick mark on the ruler. I can also see the little gray information box that's set just to the right of my cursor. I'm going to place a third one at 7.25 inches. And now, working from left to right, I'm going to align these columns to match up with my vertical ruler guide. So first I'm going to take this one and move it to the 1 inch mark. I'm going to take the second column, I'm going to line that up at 6.5 inches. Then I'm going to take the third, I'm going to place it at 7.25. And finally, the right side at the end of the fourth column, I'm going to put right against my right side margin. So it's easy for me to take that and bring it in. Now I want to insert text into the header and the body rows of the document. So starting with my header row, I'm going to put the abbreviation for quantity, QTY. I'm going to hit the Tab key to skip to the next frame to the right, just like I would if I was entering text into a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. And this one's going to say subscription. Hit the Tab key again. I'm going to place price. And then one more time, I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to hit total. Now, I've got that text loaded in with the default font that I've got set, my Minion Pro at 12 point on 14.4 point or auto leading. To highlight everything across this, I'm just going to go to the edge of that header row. I'll see my cursor changes to an arrow. Once again, the analogy is just like if I was working with a spreadsheet program like Microsoft Excel. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to make that 14 point type on 14 point or flat leading. I'm going to make it bold, and then I'm going to align it to the center. Now once I start highlighting multiple cells as I'm working with the document, what I'll see is that it in fact gives me another set of options that are specific to working with tables. For example, I can set the vertical alignment to the top, middle, or bottom. I can rotate type if I want to, put it upside down, although that looks a little goofy. Let's put it right side up once again. I can change the number of rows and columns I have in a document. I can set rules for my borders. And I've got other options that I can use to set things up as well. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it just as I've got it. Oops, take all my type and bring that right side up once again. And I'm going to set these rules not piece by piece, but I'm actually going to build them as I'm working with the table. But I'm going to get to that in just a little. Let me click in this cell right here, where I'm going to list the monthly subscription, and I'm going to hit the Tab key to skip to the next cell. And that monthly subscription from Total Training Online is $24.99. Now if I hit a return here, it's not going to go to the next row. What it's going to do is it's going to expand the size of that individual cell. That's not the way I want to move around. I can either use the tab keys, as I've already demonstrated, or I can use my cursor keys. So if you're using a standard desktop keyboard, those are the ones in between the typewriter side and the calculator side of your keyboard. With laptops, these might be positioned a little bit differently. But I'm going to hit the down cursor to move down one row, and I'm going to hit the left cursor to move to the left one column. I'm going to put 6 months, move that over, hit the tab key, and 6-month subscriptions are $137.94. Go to my arrow cursors, go down to the next row, left to the previous column, and for 1 year, hit the tab key. That's $239.88. Again, down one row, left one column, and for 2 years, the price is $399.99. So I've set my text inside of here, and I can do some formatting as I'm working with this. As I look at these numbers right here, I'll see that they line up to the left by default, and sure enough, if I highlight these cells and go to my table side, I'll see that I can align type to the left, to the center, to the right, but I can't set up to line up to the decimal points. To do that, I'm going to have to get my tab ruler. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-T because I'm working with a Windows PC for this chapter of our InDesign course. Of course, if you're on a Mac, you'd make that Command-Shift-T. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a decimal ruler. In this case, at 0.45 inches from the left side of the cell. And when I hit the tab key and place that tab, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it right here. And again, move that over to 0.45 inches. I can see that this lines up very nicely, just as I'd want for my decimal tabs. Let's close the tab ruler now. And let's do a little bit of formatting for what we'd like to set up here inside of this document. Now, I can, of course, format each one of these individual cells or columns to set these up the way I'd like them to be. But a faster way for me to do that formatting is to go to the Table pull-down menu, Table Options, and go to Table Setup. The keyboard shortcut for that is Control-Alt-Shift-B on a Windows PC, Command-Option-Shift-B if I was working on a Mac. Now, as I do this, I have the ability to set all the rules that I found before working in the control panel with my table layout. But I also have additional options. For example, I can set what I want for fills and alternating patterns. I can do the same thing with strokes for rows and for columns, and I'll deal with that in just a little bit. But let's go to the basic table setup. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the table border from black to Pantone 288. So I'm going to make it that dark blue border all the way around. And if you have the preview box checked, you can actually look at your handiwork in real time as you're working with it. I'm going to go to the row strokes, and I'm going to set up an alternating pattern so that every other row has a stroke first of a solid stroke and the color of Pantone 288C. Then the second row, I'm going to change that weight, and I'm going to make it the same as 1 point. And I'm going to change that to 355C, or that green. For the column strokes, if I chose alternating patterns, I could do that. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them all up with the same type of stroke, and I'll set how that works in just a little bit. I'm going to go to the fills, and now just as I set alternating row strokes, I'm going to set alternating fills. So the alternating pattern is again going to be every other row. I'm going to take the first row and I'm going to make it 288C blue, and I'm going to make that 10% shading. And if you look over here, you'll see that's exactly what I've got right there as I set up that shading. For the next set of rows, I'm going to change that color to 355 green. And again, I'm going to make that a 10% shade. And I can see that shading just as it shows up right here. Now I have the ability with headers and footers to set the rules for repeating those for every text column, once per text frame, or once per page if I'm setting up very long and very extensive table information to build that and make that work. I'm just going to say OK right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in close so I can see what I'm actually working with here. So I'm going to go back to that 150% view so I can see all the way across the column. Let me get the swatches palette out of the way. And now, as I've got that built, I can do the formatting that I'd like to have for my header row. So in this case, I'm going to select this. And I'm going to give it a fill of Pantone 288C. Make that absolutely solid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a type color of paper. So when I click away from this, just like so, I'll see I've got those colors set. Now, the last thing I want to do as I'm working with this is I actually want to set as I select all these cells, I'm going to take all of these borders that I've got set, click on the left side one, hold the Shift key down, so I've got all those selected, and I'm going to go inside of here as well, and I'm going to take the stroke and I'm going to make them all the same. I'm going to make those strokes, as I'm working with them, right down here, 288C, and now every stroke I've got set in the document is going to be that dark blue. Let's save our handiwork, because we've done a fair amount of work right here. So we'll go File, Save, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control-S or Command-S, and we're at the point where we're finishing this unit of our InDesign CS6 course.